Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the Q2 2024 results from Vanda Pharmaceuticals, a biopharma company that's been making waves recently. We're also going to cover some key catalysts on the horizon, including the upcoming FDA decision on Tradipitant for gastroparesis. Let's get started. First up, let's look at Vanda's second quarter financial performance for 2024. The company reported revenues of $50.5 million, which represents a 6% increase compared to the previous quarter, and a 10% jump year over year. This growth driven by sales from three major products: Fanapt, HETLIOZ, and Ponvory. Let's start with Vanda's cash position and debt. As of June 2024, Vanda reported $387 million in cash, cash equivalents, and marketable securities. This is down by $6.5 million compared to March, reflecting a slight decline over the last quarter. When we look at their year-to-date figures, the company saw a modest decrease of $0.6 million since December 31st, 2023. Vanda's balance sheet remains healthy with total liabilities of $108 million, while their stockholders' equity stands strong at $542 million. The company seems to be managing its resources efficiently, but the slight dip in cash could be attributed to ongoing research and development and marketing efforts, which we'll touch on later. Now, let's talk about expenses. Total operating expenses for Q2 2024 were $60 million compared to $48.9 million in Q2 2023. This represents a 24% increase year over year. A key driver of this rise has been Vanda's increased selling, general, and administrative expenses, which jumped from $28 million in Q2 2023 to $39 million in Q2 2024. This likely reflects costs related to expansion of their sales force, especially with the launch of Ponvory and Fanapt for new indications. Research and development remained relatively steady at around $16 million. It's worth noting that Vanda is continuing its efforts to develop new treatments, such as submitting an NDA for milsaperidone and initiating a phase 3 study for Fanapt. As of Q2 2024, Vanda has a negative $7 million in free cash flow and a slight decrease in stock-based compensation to around $3 million. This isn't great news, as expenses have been higher than revenue, and the main reason is the expansion of Vanda's commercial and marketing teams, which grew from 50 employees to 150 as of Q2 2024. Now, while overall sales are up, it's a mixed bag when we break it down by product. Let's start with Fanapt, which is a big player for Vanda. Fanapt sales hit $23 million in Q2. Now, that's down 4% compared to this time last year, but the good news is it's up 12% from last quarter. Fanapt has been around for a while for treating schizophrenia, but Vanda just launched it for bipolar 1 disorder in Q3 2024. This is a pretty smart move because the market for bipolar treatments is large and growing. Plus, Vanda has already expanded its sales force and kicked off some big marketing campaigns to boost awareness with prescribers. If this launch goes well, we could see Fanapt sales pick up even more in the coming quarters. There's more coming for Fanapt. Vanda is planning to start a phase 3 trial by the end of 2024 for a long-acting injectable version. Long-acting injectable formulations are usually more convenient for patients who don't want to deal with taking pills daily, so this could make Fanapt even more appealing. Next, we've got HETLIOZ, which treats sleep disorders. Unfortunately, HETLIOZ hasn't had the best quarter, with sales dipping 15% year over year, coming in at $18.7 million. Why the drop? Well, it's because of generic competition in the US. Whenever generics come into the market, it's like a price war, and Vanda is feeling the squeeze here. The only positive point here is that HETLIOZ is not facing generic competition in the EU for now. Still, HETLIOZ is an important part of their portfolio, and we'll see how they navigate this moving forward. The company's strategy of expanding its market reach, particularly with Fanapt in bipolar 1 disorder, could really start paying off in the coming quarters. Next up, let's talk about Ponvory, which treats multiple sclerosis, which Vanda acquired from Johnson & Johnson late last year. Ponvory brought in $8.6 million this quarter, and that's a 26% increase from Q1. Ponvory's full commercial launch is happening right now in Q3, and this could be a big growth driver moving forward. But Vanda is not stopping there. They're planning to submit an IND application to the FDA later this year to see if Ponvory can treat other conditions in clinical trials, like psoriasis and ulcerative colitis. If Ponvory can make the leap from multiple sclerosis to these other conditions, it could massively expand its market potential. Psoriasis and ulcerative colitis are both large markets with high unmet needs, so this could be a game changer for Vanda if things go according to plan. But of course, this would be still multiple years ahead. Looking ahead, Vanda is feeling confident enough to reinstate its full-year financial guidance for 2024. They expect to hit total revenues of somewhere between 180 and 210 million, with a year-end cash balance in the range of 360 million to 390 million. Those are solid numbers, especially considering they're rolling out new products and advancing their clinical pipeline. If they hit these targets, Vanda could be in a really strong position going into 2025. Of course, these projections hinge on how successful they are with those product launches we talked about earlier and how their research and development investments pan out. But with the Tradipitant PDUFA date coming up, which we will get into in a minute, things could get very interesting for Vanda. Vanda's taking some short-term losses, but they've got the cash to keep pushing forward. And if everything goes according to plan, 2024 could end up being a transformative year for the company. Now, mark your calendars because September 18, 2024 is the day to watch. That's when the FDA is set to make a decision on Vanda's application to approve Tradipitant for the treatment of gastroparesis. So, what's the big deal about gastroparesis? Well, it's a condition where your stomach can't empty itself properly, causing all sorts of uncomfortable symptoms like nausea and bloating. And get this, there hasn't been a new treatment for it in over 40 years. If Tradipitant gets the green light, it could be a game changer for the 6 million people in the US who suffer from this condition. But before we get too excited, let's talk about the catch. In May 31st, Vanda received a disciplinary letter in which the FDA identified deficiencies that preclude discussion for labeling and post-marketing requirements and commitments. But they have not made their final decision and should not be considered as a response. Vanda reached out to discuss these labeling open issues but did not receive a response from the FDA. Vanda can very well tolerate a delay of approval from the FDA, and based on the CEO's remarks during the earnings call, this is the signal they are getting from the FDA. Now, if in a turn of events the FDA approves Tradipitant, this could be huge for Vanda, not just for patients, but for the company's bottom line and of course, its stock price. We could see some serious movement if the PDUFA date goes in Vanda's favor, so keep an eye on that September 18th deadline. But wait, there's more. Tradipitant isn't just for gastroparesis. Vanda recently shared positive phase 3 results for Tradipitant in treating motion sickness, which is another massive opportunity. In fact, around 30% of people in the US deal with motion sickness whether they're traveling by car, plane, or both. Vanda plans to submit an NDA for this indication in Q4 2024. Now, looking 2 years into the future, if Tradipitant gets approved for both gastroparesis and motion sickness, it opens up a much broader patient population and a massive potential market. Gastroparesis alone is a big opportunity, but throw in motion sickness and we're talking about a whole new level of growth for Vanda. There are other potential catalysts, and while not as important, they're still somewhat relevant. So as you can see, Vanda's got a deep pipeline with a nice mix of late stage and early stage projects. Fanapt and Ponvory are already showing promise in their existing markets, and there's potential for these drugs to expand into even more indications. Add to that their early stage programs, and Vanda is setting itself up for long-term growth. Alright, so what's the big takeaway here? Vanda's Q2 2024 results show that they're not just holding steady, they're actively building for the future. Sure, there are some short-term losses, but between the expanding sales of Fanapt and Ponvory and the potential blockbuster waiting in Tradipitant, Vanda's set up for some exciting times ahead. Fanapt is picking up momentum, especially with its recent approval for bipolar 1 disorder, and Ponvory's growth in the multiple sclerosis space is already looking strong. What about short-term catalysts? That's going to be Tradipitant. All eyes are on that September 18th PDUFA date for FDA approval in gastroparesis. And don't forget, Vanda is also gearing up to submit Tradipitant for motion sickness in Q4 2024. If they can land approvals for both of those indications, we're looking at a whole new level of potential revenue. Of course, there's always risk when it comes to FDA approvals, and the competition, especially with Hetlioz facing pressures from generic, is something to keep in mind. But if you're watching Vanda closely, there's no denying that they're positioned for potentially big things in the next few months. So what do you think? Is Vanda a hidden gem in the biotech space, or is there too much uncertainty with Tradipitant? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates on Vanda and other biotech companies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.